Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Things We Like podcast with
There
you
we go.
boys. I think we are
Yes,
live. We
we
are
sure
live.
are. I have the chat pulled up right next to me. Oh, look, I'll show you. I bought this thing. This is from Evangelion.
Oh, that's
It's
so sick.
and it's like hold on, I can do this. So it holds my phone up so I could read the chat and
Oh,
everything.
that's so
So
dope.
it's one of those like blind boxes that you can get, and
Yeah,
I love blind boxes. They're awesome. But I haven't. I'm still trying to watch the show, but that's the one I got. So.
that's so sick.
So I have the chat and everything pulled up right here. I might even use it when I stream, but yeah.
We are here. Uh, First off, rip. We made a video that by the time you watch this, will have gone out.
True.
If you're watching it live, it's not out yet. But if you're watching this
You continue
after
that.
the
I'll be right
fact,
back.
I made a video recently with Brooks where we talked about books, and this is the book that Brooks has landed on to
Hold on, I gotta
finally
get my-
start
I gotta get my ears plugged back in,
reading.
but you just keep on ranting.
Finally start reading. So we made
All
we made a video based on if you're into video games, what kind of books might you like reading, if you're trying to get into reading, and Brooks picked the one that I basically said was Elden Ring, the book.
Yeah, it might show backwards in the thing, but I don't think so down the recording. Maybe in the live stream.
No,
but-
it's fine.
Okay, it's probably just on my end though. But I got it. I'm gonna start it this weekend, and I'm super excited. I've just been really busy this week. Also, this is also Andrew's doing. The
Yeah.
the calendar book.
Yeah,
he
it's
had
a
one.
planner.
Yeah, he had one with like
Yeah, this is
Earthbound on
mine. This is mine. It's got it's Mother 2 edition
I love it.
planner. It's really dope.
I had to cut off one of the bookmarks because I hated having two bookmarks on it.
One's for your month and one's for your week.
Yeah, well,
That's
I
what
only
I
want
do.
one. You're
That's
smart.
fine.
You're a better man than me.
Yeah. But yeah, so totally 100% books is about to be full send books.
Dude, yeah.
Brooks, last week we talked about, or last time we had an episode, we talked about how there was nothing going on right now, and we felt
Yeah, we
like,
sure did.
like nothing was happening. And then I think like 2 days later, there was this Bungie announcement. So why don't you talk to me about this?
Okay, so the gaming industry is pretty ask and receive, it seems like,
Yeah.
and not in a good way. So we went. What's that thing from The Office where it's like 0 days since like a office nonsense
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
we had to like erase that. And
100%.
I think a guy mentions it in one of these videos that I'm going to link. I'm going to link a bunch of resources so you could, dive into this properly. So I'm going to give you like a surface level overview of what's going on. So Bungie, the people responsible for this little indie hit, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Halo.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal when it came out, and yeah, they're important to a lot of people. However, recently they have been working on a game called Marathon, which, funny enough, Marathon was like a Doom clone when it came out first.
Interesting.
So Doom came out, and then Bungie developed Marathon, which is very, very similar to it. So it's not just like, hey, we're gonna just build an IP from the ground up. We are going to resurrect this old one and make it into a thing now. However, the biggest controversy that I'm aware of that is going on right now is plagiarism and stealing from an artist. So there are assets that an artist posted from like, I don't know, years back. And they show like a side-by-side comparison of the art. And it's basically like, it's really hard to dispute that they didn't steal it.
Yeah.
And there was one asset. So do you know the Lost meme? Like, if I were to be like, this is Lost, do you know what that is?
Like the show?
No, it's like, so there's this, it's one of the most like reposted images of all time on the internet. It's this is Lost, and it's like the guy, he walks into the hospital, and then he talks to the receptionist, he talks to the doctor, and then he sees his wife laying in
Oh,
bed.
is this Lost?
Yeah, is this
Got
Lost?
you.
So that made its way into Bungie, but it was like, I think somebody like hid it in their assets or something, and then it made it into the game. And That
That's
part,
crazy.
yeah. So I don't know how that got in because again, this is very surface level, and I will be linking all the videos that I've kind of skimmed through or watched. And also, my recall is garbage. So basically, the biggest issue right now is that Bungie is in hot water for stealing the art from this person, and
Oof.
they never hired them. They never like all.
Contracted them
Yeah, well, people are
or
arguing it's like,
licensed. Yeah.
what should they do? They should apologize and like pay the person,
Well, yeah, they should give them royalties or something.
or like credit them, give them royalties or whatever. And like that's the biggest controversy right now. And there's the last thing I'll add on to this is there was like a live stream with the people, like two guys who were like doing like a press run or something of it, and it was they were streaming on Twitch, and you could just see the live stream. It just says plagiarism will make me God.
Jeez.
And it's just the whole thing is just it's awesome. And then the guy's just he's sitting there. He looks so upset. But yeah,
Dang.
Bungie.
Hey man, don't mess with live stream. Don't try to live stream when you have controversy around.
Dude,
you
for
should know
sure.
better. You
For
should know
sure.
better.
So why are we mentioning this on the podcast? It's just another series of big corporations meddling in gaming, and they're just
AAA studios dropping the ball
It's
in
just
some form or fashion.
like now they've joined the ranks of like EA
Bethesda.
and Blizzard and Bethesda and Valve to an extent, where all
To an
these
extent, yeah.
Yeah,
Project
Valve-
CD Red.
yeah, I mean, there's all these people that this is bothering me. I had to fix it. All these like AAA developers are getting too greedy, and they are implementing like anti-consumer practices, which means
Sure.
like, well, in the case of plagiarism, it's like, hey, we're gonna cut as many corners as possible. So it like may that doesn't technically harm the consumer, but it does harm the industry if they're going to be implementing practices of like, hey, let's steal this so we don't have to pay these people. That's sort of their mentality, is like, how can we make this product that sells a lot, that makes the people at the top tons of money without having to actually pay people to make that? Like,
Yeah.
how can we cut as many corners and put like just pump out slop? Because Marathon like is supposed to be a looter shooter, which is like popular right now. I don't play shooters personally, but I'm kind of aware
Would that be like a PUBG or like a Valorant type deal?
I think so. A looter shooter would be like I just looked it up, like Destiny 2,
Okay, yeah.
Borderlands,
which is
Warframe.
more of what Bungie is known for, is like those type of games. 'Cause don't they make Destiny?
Yeah, Bungie
Yeah.
developed Destiny.
Yeah, so it's more in their wheelhouse.
So yeah, it's just really disappointing. Like
That's sad. Because they kind of screwed Destiny over too. So I have a bunch of friends that are massive Destiny fans, and like Destiny 1, one of the goated games of all time when it comes to like that genre of like space shooter type deal, and Destiny 2 in the beginning was so sick, and then they made it like a free to play, and did the paid like games paywall stuff, and
my
all
friend
that kind of stuff.
my friend Jonathan was big into Destiny too.
And like I think in
or
the
Destiny also.
in the beginning it was cool, and then like it definitely, as seasons went on, it got progressively worse and like terrible. And I know a lot of friends of mine that just bailed out of the whole game after spending years grinding their characters and like getting all this loot stuff, and it's just didn't end up being. They couldn't consistently output for that. I mean, it's also a game that like Destiny I always wanted to get into because it looks so fun. But then like you see the deep community's reaction to a lot of the moves that they make, that Bungie makes, and it's like, man, I just don't want to have to deal with all that.
It just seems that like these really big developers, like Blizzard and Diablo, Like Diablo 4 came out and it was like super controversial, but I've heard it like got better over time, but it's still like still weird. Like Blizzard's been weird about World of Warcraft for a long time. They've been like essentially talking down to their fan base when they did that big press release, and they're like, they introduced like a mobile game thing, and they're like, "What? You guys don't have phones or whatever?" And it's like, the guy was like, "You think you want this, but you actually don't." And it's
Cool.
really annoying.
Cool.
It's super annoying because, you know, I think you might agree with me on this, but in the age of the internet, every fan base of every art form and every media is extremely vocal.
Oh yeah. Well, as they should be. Like,
Of course.
as they should be in the day and age of prices are they're only asking more money. We've talked about it before. They're only gonna be asking for more money for these things, or putting these things on monthly subscriptions that cost hundreds of dollars a year over the course of a year. And if they're going to be doing that, they deserve every bit of criticism and
Of course.
and accountability to their fans.
Yeah, I think so too. So it's like the film industry, for example, like Disney just came out with Lilo and Stitch. Let's talk about that for like a split second.
God. Talk about backlash.
Yeah, I mean, some people are. I've watched a couple videos on it because I don't personally want to go see it. Because, you know, I'm pretty skeptical of the Disney remakes. There's movies that I want to go see, obviously. But Lilo and Stitch was not one of them because I was like, well, I don't trust them. No. And people are like, they're saying it's awful. They're saying it's better than I mean, anything's better than Snow White.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of like an insult to the original, and like they're trying Stitch
they changed the entire meaning of the movie.
And like I feel like I can get enough of why people hate it from the videos.
Oh yeah. Just literally go look up Lilo and Stitch review on like TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah, and like I haven't heard one person being like, "Yo, this is like amazing. This is like they finally got it right. They did the justice to the original. They did this, they did that." But like it all leads into the why are we mentioning Lilo and Stitch and then Bungie? Because it's the same concept. Literally the same concept is there. It's like these fan bases and these people who, you know, we spend money on media. We love media. We love entertainment. We love art. Like we are spending our time and money investing ourselves into this art. And people are very passionate about it. People care about it. You know, what could be like, oh, well, Lilo and Stitch doesn't, who cares about it? It's just a movie. Well, that person's just a movie is somebody else's like passion. So you got to consider that. And like when it comes to gaming and when it comes to movies, when it comes to all of this art, it's so like, I'm not necessarily advocating for studios and filmmakers and game developers and like artists. I'm not advocating for artists to literally give them everything they want because that takes away the element of creation, you know, but like at least hit some of the marks, you know, like take what they want and make something great out of that. Cause it's literally, it's free. How do I want to say this? It's like a layup. Like you have so many layups, you know?
Well, and like I think with Lilo and Stitch, it's like one, that movie's not that old. I think it was I don't know, 2007 or something like that, 2004. Like it's not that old. It's like mid-aughts when that came out. So it's not quite 20 years old, I do believe. Which for the ones that they're remaking.
Ooh, 2002.
Okay, so it's a little older than I thought. But still, like, it's probably the newer of the ones that they've decided to remake, because most of the ones are like 80s, 70s, if not 60s. Like Snow White's like 60s.
Yeah, that was like Snow White's like from the 40s.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Like the colored, it's crazy. And so they're like some of the ones that they're doing are incredibly old. This is definitely the newest one. And a lot of people were like, we're not asking for, like, no one is asking for this in the first place.
No.
And so with that in mind, literally, if they just stuck to the storyline exactly, made a live action version of that movie, and then made like a couple tweaks to make it a little more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they got to do. Keep the same storyline, keep the same story beats. You know what I'm saying? Like keep everything pretty much the same. They would print money with that.
Dude,
they would just print money with that.
They would, and it's like they try so hard to deviate from the source material, and that sort of like hubris is not good for a remake or a remaster. And it's like we've seen it even in the Demon Souls. I think it's remake, because remaster is just taking the game and just
upscaling it, basically.
Upscaling it. But a remake is building it from the ground up, and like even in the Demon Souls remake, like there are some design things that they chose to do that like some people don't necessarily agree with, because it's like the developers think that they know better. It's like, and they're not even like really outwardly saying it. Maybe they are. Maybe they're defending their choices. But like, if you're gonna remake something, like, pay attention to the original. And I wish people that remade things would understand why the original was so great. Because like the Lion King remakes, people despise those. Like Snow White, people despise that movie. And it was a huge flop. And it's the same. It's like all of this, like, all these things add up to this one problem of like hubris and greed, and like how can we make, like, they want to make a profit, but they also want to be relevant. They also want to be like, they're trying to please everybody, and they end up pleasing nobody. You know what would be, I agree to your point of like, stick closer to the source material, because that could be a child's first introduction to the thing. And when it's like so totally different than the original, it's like nobody's asking for that. Like, you might be able to entertain like a 4-year-old. Sure. But like,
well, you couldn't, because my son went to go see it with his grandparents, and he only made it through half the movie before he checked out.
So here's another point. You know what would be awesome is if Disney literally they're sitting on these like amazing IPs and amazing films that they've made in the past. One thing that's popular now in movie theaters is like, I'll go to some movie theaters and they like play old movies. They rotate movies.
Well, they used to do that. So they used to do that actually. Whenever when me and Aaron were dating, we went to go see like a remastered version. So it was like a 4K, like a high-res upscale and like remix, like the music was remixed version of, I can't remember which movie it was, but I think it was something like Snow White or something like that. It was one of our early dates back before we got married. And yeah, 100%. It works. Studio Ghibli does that all the time with their stuff. They'll do like weekend releases of all of their stuff in theatrical releases of their movies. And it's dope. And people buy tickets, and they go, and they do really well. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, just
they could literally rotate.
It's quite literally printing money with stuff they already have.
What they could do is literally they could take 2 or 3 like Disney Pixar films that are like very pop. Like, okay, let's say
do like a marathon.
Yeah, well, let's say for the month of like June, is about to be June, so they have like Toy Story, Aladdin, and Tarzan or something, and they're all playing in select theaters for a month, and then they change them out, and then like in July you get like The Little Mermaid, you get Lion King, and then you get like Wall-E or something like that, something random, and then it just kind of, they shuffle through it, and they could literally take 2 or 3 of those movies, shuffle them out every year, and it would give people the opportunity to see them on the big screen. Like you could buy, or you could watch Wall-E, or you could do that like on Disney Plus. But it's seeing a Disney film like the original, because like Toy Story was the first movie I ever saw in theaters. I remember it very vividly, and it changed my life. Like, I love that movie. Tarzan was big for me too. So seeing those movies on the big screen, it's very inspiring, and it honors the work of the people that came before, you know, like that really did all the hard work and like made great movies, and, you know, made great scores, and, you know, made great animation, and like it honors that work. So
For sure. Well, I think, and what we're saying, I think back to the Bungie comparison is, I think it's a good thing for the fan bases to be vocal and be loud about like the things that they want to see with their favorite IPs, whether it's a Disney, whether it's Bungie making terrible decisions. Bungie as a corporation who has previously made some of their favorite games like Halo or Destiny, and like making weird decisions with this new game. I think people need to make sure they're vocal and make sure that they push the negatives as far as like making sure that the developers realize that it is a problem.
yeah,
On that note, and it's
Yep.
a really good transition. Speaking of which, recently it's been announced that there's going to be an Elden Ring movie. And this is a theme that is close to Brooks's heart.
oh yeah, for sure.
So let's pull it up. I have an article here. We're gonna walk through it real quick, and then we'll kind of take a break and talk about it. This is from PCGamesIn.com. Elden Ring movie release date estimate, cast predictions, and story ideas. It's kind of just probably it's published a couple days ago. It's just like it got announced, and we'll see. And he's gonna talk about what he thinks it's gonna happen, like what's gonna happen with it. To many, Elden Ring is merely a game about fighting things, monsters, people, strange, nondescript globules of matter. Fighting does take the center stage from FromSoft's epic, but there is so much more to Elden Ring than a good scrap. With the movie officially in the works, we've gathered everything there is to know about the release date, cast, and what they might tackle in the story. The Elden Ring movie isn't the first video game to get a shot at the big screen, and it most certainly won't be the last, but it's got a deep well to pull from. We can see this being up there with one of the best. It's difficult to imagine how the director will approach the Souls-like game, though, with Elden Ring being an immersive environmental tale rather than a standard A to B affair, very railroaded storyline. It's pretty broad in how you experience the game. Also, it would be a pretty dark movie in general. Another one of Alex Garland's adaptations, Annihilation, took around 2 years to shoot. Given that and the fact that Elden Ring movie, it was only recently announced, we estimate its release to be sometime in 2027. Of course, it all depends on whether the Elden Ring movie currently has an approved script. If we take writing, it could even push the release date out further, so maybe 2028, 2029. Cast, the only thing they know about like specifically is that Alex Garland is from A24. So A24 is tackling the movie. Alex Garland is set to direct and has a tendency to use a lot of the same actors. So Oscar Isaac being one of those actors. Oscar Isaac is actually one of my favorite. I love Oscar Isaac as an actor. I actually think he's a massively underrated actor.
I agree with that.
He was in, if you're a Marvel fan, he was Moon Knight. And Moon Knight, he acted his absolute butt off in that show because he had to play somebody with multiple personality.
Yeah.
And he had 3 personalities in him, and he had to instantly switch like in between like those things in some scenes, and it's crazy.
He was also in Star Wars and Dune. So
and he's incredible in both of those as well. And he was in both Ex Machina and Annihilation.
Nice.
And Sonia Mizuno also appeared in those. Alex Garland also wrote the scripts for 28 Days Later and Sunshine.
Wow. I just saw 28 Days Later in theaters because they're doing a promo for 28 Years Later that we're going to go see.
Yeah.
That movie's incredible.
What a great movie. And both star Cillian Murphy, who Alex Garland also tends to like. So Cillian Murphy would be really interesting.
Oh, Cillian Murphy in the Elden Ring movie. He's one of my favorites.
Would be pretty cool.
Definitely Ian's favorite.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy also tends to really like working with Alex Garland, so that's like a thing. And then so this is plot ideas, because how would you wrangle the plot of Elden Ring? So this is what he says. This is where things get murky. Elden Ring generally forgoes all conventional storytelling practice for a more environmental affair. Myths are told via item description, corpses talk of events in the past, and occasionally a huge tremorous creature will monologue at you before proceeding to bash your head in. Because of this, it's incredibly difficult to know where the Elden Ring movie will go in terms of narrative. Alex Garland has adapted other source material before, namely with 2018's Annihilation. Taking Annihilation as an example, it's clear that Garland isn't afraid to tinker with the story if he thinks it will suit the big screen better. And we could see this happen with Elden Ring. On that note, a lot of people might not like that very much because the Elden Ring does have, it's not a clear plot, but it does have a very specific plot. Taking on the A plot of Elden Ring would be an insurmountable feat. Cramming that much lore into 2 hours would be incredibly difficult and messy. So we could see Elden Ring movie taking a small slice of that world and immersing us in it. Night of Black Knives, for instance, would make that specific story for Elden Ring veterans and newcomers alike would find that enthralling. An assassination plot in a grim fantasy world sounds really dope. That's everything we know. Yeah. That's everything that they know about the Elden Ring stuff. So A24's taking on the Elden Ring movie. Alex Garland's going to be at the helm as far as directing it goes.
This could be like a huge deal.
It could be a big dub for like video game movies.
It could, because the last couple video game movies that we've had, like the Mario movie,
Crushed.
Oh yeah, that one was good.
However you feel about the actors that portrayed them, I actually think, because I have seen that movie about 1 million times with my son, it does really well. A lot of people are like super video game people weren't massive fans of it for certain reasons, and I get those reasons, but also it was for a general audience and it crushed for a general audience.
Yeah. I think, and then the Sonic movies, people have responded to very well.
And I've also seen all those, and those are also amazing.
Okay, so here's my...
Those have actually only gotten better as they've went, and they're set up for a fourth one.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is Metal Sonic, which is like, this is the thing. They've hit like the 3 major storyline beats in the first 3 movies.
Yeah.
And they've set themselves up to go into deep Sonic lore.
Oh, yeah.
Like later. Like if we're getting Metal Sonic and like time travel, which is like what Metal Sonic is, you get into like deep space, like crazy lore behind Sonic.
You could
stuff.
do multiverse stuff if you have time travel, I think. And then
potentially, but like the big bad in Sonic is the guy that gives, so the shadows like shadow energy. The guy that gives shadow that or helps create shadow, the piece of dark energy that they use to create shadow, the person that is from is like the major bad entity across all Sonic universe.
Oh, okay.
There's like another person that's like bigger than Eggman and more big bad. But it's like deep Sonic lore that most people don't know. Most people that play the games don't even know about.
Yeah. So here's my take on everything that we just read. I think if they really, really want to knock this one out of the park, first of all, I think movie is like... I'm hesitant because this could be like a 10-part like Netflix or HBO Max or Hulu series, and it would just crush because
I feel like
an hour
movie
dedicated.
is a weird choice for Elden Ring. Personally,
I think movie is too like
small.
Yeah, it's like, well, The Lord of the Rings is a great example because it took 3 movies to really tell that story because there's so much and there's so much they left out.
Cut out so much, but he probably did the best he could to make it into each book into a movie, and those movies are still 3 hours plus long.
And they're awesome. Like I love the original Lord of the Rings. Like that's like, I mean, we both love high fantasy, and that's like the king of high fantasy. Arguably, so like Elden Ring is like that's like my baby. So like, I think that movie it's weird because I feel like there's so much that there's going to be missed out on. If you want to go from the straight, like, I think having the Night of Black Knives thing is great because that's when they kill uh, Godwin, I
Hmm.
think his name is, and then they kill Godwin, and then like all that happens, and like,
But that's all precursor lore, right?
well, yeah, well, it's like you could get into the world of like the demigods, and like there's Ronnie, and then there's all these people, and like, granted, I know a good bit of the lore, but like trying to recall it again, my
It's a lot.
recall is,
It's very deep.
but
Well, it's
so.
also just a lot to know.
Yeah, I know. It's like Kingdom Hearts. It's like getting into
Yeah.
the real thick of it when it comes to all the characters and everything that really happens, and like it's a lot to remember. It's a lot to keep in your brain, and that's the way
Sure.
Elden Ring is for me. So that being said, I think having it in a movie format is like concerning to me, but I think it can be done. I think because there's such a lack of story, you could make it, the plot could be just insanely simple, and you could just have a field day with the visuals and the experience of like
Hmm.
the Tarnished fighting the bosses, like having these encounters with these like uh, giant creatures, like seeing Rykard on the screen would be
Yeah.
crazy. Seeing like, I think you'd have to have Morgott or Margit.
Yeah.
You'd have to have the Margit fight. You'd have to have the Godric fight.
Hmm.
I mean, you need Radagon and the Elden Beast.
Yes.
But you would also have to. I wonder.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. And this is like a movie thing. They normally never put it on one character. And Elden Ring is a very singular character story.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to make it a group rather than an individual.
I think.
Mainly because that tends to play better with audiences.
I think the way I would tackle this, being somebody who's never made a movie before, but just understanding the game and how it works, because I've played that game. That's probably the game I played the most in my life is Elden
Yeah.
Ring. Aside from like maybe Pokemon, like I played a lot of Pokemon, but I think what would be cool would be setting up the story with the Knight of Black Knives, starting with the Tarnished kind of waking up and like discovering where they are. And but the thing is, if you do that, then okay, there's a ton of build variety in Elden Ring. Are you gonna be?
So that is why I think they'll use multiple people to showcase the build variety.
Well, I think what you could do is you could you have to have a character like Blide in there. You have to have like the Radon Festival. That would probably be where, because you summon all of the different people and you could have like all the sorceries and stuff. I think keeping the Tarnished, like if you kept him a very simple character, like with a simple build, like maybe just like a sword and shield, kind of like
Sword and board, yeah. Very well, like the replicating the person on the cover of the game.
Yeah, well, that. So actually, the armor on the cover of the game, that's Vike's armor. So Vike is a character in the game who his armor is one of my favorites. He's got like the fingerprint,
Yeah.
like burns on his armor.
Which I think that's pretty iconic, and that would be the cool person to make like the primary character.
Yeah, and then like I think you would almost have to make him like your typical like knight character, but
Yeah.
you might have to make him a jack of all trades. You might have to make him like, okay, well, you could give him the Sword of Night and Flame, and that would be great for like a visual thing. And I think another cool way you could tackle this is like you just tell the story in segments, because you
Yeah.
could just show off. Basically, the Tarnished is trying to take is become the Elden Lord.
Yeah.
You got to defeat, it's America's Golden Order or whatever, and you got to like go through all that. And
I think the way personally to do it would be if they were trying to stretch the IP and make the most amount of money off of it. This is probably what I would do. Is backstory lore, so like history stuff, That's what the movie's about. The movie is the setup, not the game. So the movie is all of the lore prior. So like the big war, the knives, like all that stuff, like the assassinations, it's that stuff. Then that ends, and then you go into a show. And then episodically you do what would be considered like main game stuff.
That would be pretty cool, actually. It's like, hey, we had this one-off thing, and then it leads into this. That would be actually pretty nuts. But
That's kind of what Marvel does, which is you have a one-off thing that leads into other stuff. You have Thor movies that lead into Loki, which is 2 seasons. You have, an Avengers movie that leads into WandaVision, and that's a season plus, and then WandaVision leads into the other movie and also a different show. So, like, it's kind of taking that thought, and you basically make the movie the establishing point.
Yep.
And then you start the show. You pick up the show like as that's the lore. So if you want to know the lore, you can go watch the movie.
Yep.
And then you can, or you could just start the show and just enjoy the show as it is, and the lore makes sense and it affects the show. But yeah,
it's like the setup or whatever. And then it like leads into the thing. I think here's another thing that I think should be absolutely a no-brainer, but really crucial. Get George R.R. Martin and Miyazaki involved, because George R.R. Martin, like, his involvement with the character, I don't think he had much to do with the story. He just had, from my recollection, I think he had a hand in naming the characters and creating the characters,
sure,
and creating the world. But like the story was open ended. Like he had very little involvement. I mean, his
was it Miyazaki the story mainly,
well, yeah,
or was he the monsters?
Well, I think he's like the direction of the game. He's
Gotcha.
more like the direct. He's like that's his brainchild and baby.
Game
so
director.
Like, but like George R.R. Martin, to my recollection, and again, look this up just to cover my tracks. Like, it was with the names and the world, and that was really it. Like his contributions were significant, but it wasn't like, it was like kind of like from back here, and the Miyazaki's got like his hands on it, and George R.R. Martin's kind of back here. But I think George R.R. Martin being involved in this as far as storytelling and like get Miyazaki, and it would be crazy but really smart. Hire like Vati Vidya, literally, like have him on, take a year because these are the people that like understand the lore for a living.
So
like,
according to the internet, and this is Reddit, George R.R. Martin's heavy contribution was the writing for the lore.
Yeah.
So he basically wrote the setting and the 5,000 years prior to when the game starts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was close.
So Godfrey's Conquest. Let's see. So things like Radin, Rykard, and Ronnie being siblings, that was written by George R.R. Martin. Queen. Also, if any of this is spoilers, I'm sorry. Queen Marika's arrival in the lands between, Godfrey's Conquest, Godfrey and the Tarnished, ejection from the lands between. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Radagon leaving Renalia to become Marika's consort.
Yeah.
All of that is George R.R. Martin. Basically everything up until the Shattering, which the Shattering was also George R.R. Martin.
Yeah. So
and then he hands it off. Basically, he writes the lore, the framework in which to work, and then hands it off, and they make the actual like in-game stuff.
Yeah, so that's also, I would consult him, definitely Miyazaki, hire some people like Vati Vidya and these like lore guys who are literally.
So I guess what I'm saying is make the movie about George R.R. Martin's part.
Oh yeah, you could. You definitely could do that.
Just make the movie about George R.R. Martin's part, and then make the show about the Shattering. So make the movie about the Shattering.
I see.
And then make the show about Shattering and post-Shattering.
Yeah, you definitely could do that. You definitely could. That's a good idea too. It's like you could definitely make the movie about everything before the Tarnished becomes Elden Lord, and then you could like stretch that out into that would actually be kind of genius,
because that way you don't have to worry about like too many because there's so much that you need to know post Shattering to like fully understand the world, and it's a lot of explanation. And so I think just doing like the pre stuff as its own, and maybe I'm wrong because I don't know the lore that much. You definitely know it more than me as far as like what that section contains as far as amount of information. But if there's a way that you could potentially get that into just encapsulate one movie, that would be awesome. And be a lot more refined as far as a storyline.
Yeah, it's like you could tell the story. I think it would be supplement. If it was canon, that would be great. Where it's just like it explains like what led to the Shattering, and then like after
the game is like, or the show is the Shattering. And then you have the game.
That would be awesome.
So you could like watch the movie, watch the show, play the game, and then like in that order.
Yeah, because like I think the movie really should. I think that's a really good point. I think that the movie could focus on everything pre-Shattering and like you build up the story and like go into a little bit more detail of like
relationships of all of these
people. And like do that because that way you wouldn't have to focus on like one singular tarnished like and build a story around that. And then like if you did make a show out of it, you could hit the bullet points of like, you fight it could literally just be you don't even have to really care about the story all that much. Is like you just care about the action and make it really awesome and badass.
It's enemy of the week type show at that point, which is like enemy of the week builds up to end of season is a boss, and you do that like 5 times.
Yeah, and then like you do Margit and Godric.
Maybe you do like 2 bosses per season or something.
Yeah, it's like you fight Renala or Rena. I forgot her name.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of R names that are just kind of.
There's a bunch of R names
and
that
then
look
there's
the
like
same.
There's like Radagon, Radon, Ronnie, Renala, Rena, like all these people like, and then at the end of the show you would get down to the climax of like, it would be Godfrey and Horaloo, and then you go right into Radagon and Elden Beast. Like holy God, that would be insane. But you could also,
as a show, that would take like 4 or 5 seasons, which would be pretty cool. And then you could build.
I don't even think so.
Maybe 3.
I think it could just be like one season of 12 episodes and just.
Well, you would want to do more character development than that, and you would want to like establish some characters and probably make it like a group.
Possibly. I think that kind of defeats the purpose. But there are, so you could have like a few bosses and a few side characters like Dialos or D and Fia, like the deathbed companion. You could have like you have the Dung Eater getting off near,
you could have a summoned like ghost that interacts with you all the time.
Yeah, like
as like
Alexander, the Jar Warrior. You could have him.
Or you could just have a ghost follow you around and be like comic relief.
Your mimic tier is just like your comic relief.
Yeah.
That would be kind of crazy because like there's so many things you could do. There's tons of summons, there's tons of everything. And I think having, I think the best way to do it would, if you made your tarnished carry the Sword of Night and Flame, for example, and that was their weapon of choice, maybe give them like a unique armor that they only have.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. Sword of Night and Flame, if you have canonically in the game, if you have the Sword of Night and Flame, it's faith and intelligence. So what you would need to do for that is you could add like incantations, you could add spells, you could add whatever. Like
it leans into like the sword magic build a little more, which is a broader experience.
You could get a lot of different things, and you could go, dude. Like one episode could be like you meeting Vare and going to the Mogwin Palace, and then,
that's true because I forget how big that world is.
Yeah, so here's how I would do it: is like you could have like a series of things where it's like, okay, well, the Tarnish wakes up in the Lands Between, and then immediately that's when you go like. you explore the land and you do a lot of things. It would showcase you going in like a dungeon. It would in like a catacomb and like finding weapons or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you go fight Margit, and then you go fight Godric, and that would be like the first episode. And I think at that point the story matters a lot less. It's just kind of hit the beats that people know. When it comes to the story, you could talk about like maybe when you go into when you go to the Radon Festival, you see that guy and he tells the backstory of Radon, and then like you go fight Radon and you summon all the people, and then that could be the thing. But
Well,
then
like the backstory of Radon could be an episode.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you do that,
Yeah.
and you do the whole Radon Festival, you beat his ass, and then like there is kind of an order. You could do like a whole episode dedicated to the underground, like where you go to Noxtella and you go to all these places.
You could
and
fall into it, and that would be
Yeah, you
like
definitely
you're
do.
running from something and you fall into it.
So like when you beat Radon, a meteor shoots out of the sky and opens a hole when you go into Noxtella. Like you go
Yeah.
into
There
the
you go.
underground
There you
world.
go. Yeah,
And then
so
like
that
that
works out
sets
great.
up, and then you do like a whole episode of that, and the next
maybe
part,
two, maybe a couple.
and then like and then you could do like
You're moving really quick on these as far as episodes. To me, like Radon is the end of season 1. It's like 8 episodes for a season. That's the end of season 1. It ends with you beating him, the meteor coming down, and you
yeah.
falling into that hole, and that's the end of season 1.
I would be happy with either, because the more detail you dedicate and the more time you stretch it out, like the Elden Ring series is what you
Yeah.
stretch it out.
Yeah.
I think okay, so I think to put a pin in this and to end this episode, let's just say this. I think we've come to the agreement that the movie could be a standalone experience setting up the lore. And then we jump into a show, which I mean that you could make it as long as you
could
wanted
do
to.
it. You could do a bunch of different stuff. You could also like as like there's DLC now, so you could like bring that into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do a whole season for the DLC with like Mesmer and like all those guys.
That might be 2 seasons. Yeah, that might be first half of the DLC is one season, second half of the DLC is another
there's
season.
so much to play. I think that would be such a fun project to play with. If you like
I know.
storyboard, it'd take like 2 years, storyboard out everything and be like, hey, here, we're going to do, because also Elden Ring, it plays with color as well.
Yeah.
So like it's a minor
There's
thing.
a lot of cool cinematography stuff you could do. I actually hope that Apple TV gets a hold of this, because Apple TV's been doing, like, if you do A24, who's also really good at color palettes, and then Apple TV and A24 do like the show together, dude, that would crush so hard.
Oh yeah.
That would crush so hard. And Apple TV is willing to like try weird stuff like that generally.
Because they have
speaking.
Severance and Murderbot right now.
They have Severance, Murderbot. They have a show called Silo, which is also based on a book. They're really good at adaptations, which I've noticed.
Yeah.
Like Murderbot is pretty similar to like the book. Silo, I've heard, is even better than the books, because I haven't read the books, but I've heard the show is even better than the books. They have a show or a movie one about it's a book adaptation of a sci-fi book called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
I've heard of that actually.
And it's supposed to be really, really cool. And the show is supposed to be or show/movie, I can't remember which one it is. It's supposed to also be really dope. There's a bunch of cool stuff, dude. They're like willing to try some stuff. And they've had a lot of success in that world of like taking already existing IPs and like doing really good stuff with them. Yeah, I feel like those are the right. If we're gonna go movie into film into show,
Yeah.
I feel like A24 into A24 combined with Apple TV Plus.
It's in good hands with A24, I believe.
I think
think.
A24 is the. I mean, I personally think, from a person who is surrounded himself with a lot of video and cinematography guys, I think they would all agree that A24 is probably the best to attack this.
Yep.
Because it's gonna have to be dark. It's gonna have to be pretty gruesome. It's gonna have to be extremely moody and shot in a really particular color palette way. Yeah, I and then if they're gonna do a show, which I think they should, if they're gonna stretch the IP as far as monetary goes, just put it on Apple TV Plus. Have whoever showrunner take over the show. go to Apple TV Plus, A24 Apple TV combo, run that into the ground. Anytime they release a new DLC, you have a new storyline. Because that's the thing. Then you start getting into, as Elden Ring grows and they release any more DLC, or they release like more stories in the FromSoft world broadly, you could do other shows.
And I think as far as DLC goes, I think we're done with Elden Ring.
You think so?
I
You don't think there'll be one more?
I don't think there'll be any more. If there were, I think we'd know about it by now, and it would have come out. But
It could spark another DLC though.
if it did, more Elden Ring is like I'm not gonna complain, and I will
Yeah.
we'll be eating good. But like anyway, so to wrap up this episode, we've talked about Bungie and how they're just in hot water. We've mentioned the Lilo and Stitch movie and how like it ties into the whole idea of big greedy companies. You know, they're missing the point by
And not
like
listening to their
500
fan
country
bases.
miles.
Yeah.
They're not listening to people. They think that they're doing everything correctly, but nothing they're doing is working.
And then we have Elden Ring, which arguably has the fan base you do not want to piss off the most.
Oh God!
If they get
Jesus.
that wrong, dude,
Look,
it's gonna be a bad time.
Look, I am a FromSoft fan through and through, and I can tell you with certainty that if this thing sucks, it would probably spark.
Oh, dude,
The
internet's gonna be on fire.
There are some YouTubers who are gonna make bank
Oh yeah,
bank
just from hate
complaining about that movie.
Hate content, yeah.
And but the thing is, Elden Ring is such a landmark achievement in gaming. Like you have one shot. I would even if it was just okay, like just make it okay. You know, I would love great.
Yeah,
I would love
I
great.
think-
Don't make it suck.
I think, and something A24 should think about in that mindset, talking about the things that we talked about before, is as much creator involvement as far as the storyline and like getting people to be involved, getting other people to be involved as far as like ideation up front as they can do, the more successful it is going to be.
Yeah.
And try to, like, with an open mind, talk to some of these creators who are Elden Ring, like, deep Elden Ring people, lore people. Have these creators as a part of your writing team, at least in pre-production, as you're kind of sketching out the broader scope of the story.
Yeah, because they'd be like, "Hey, this doesn't work. This can't work because this can't work because that."
It prevents, like, potential major plot hole issues.
Yep.
But, hey, listeners, thanks so much for listening. This has been really fun. Brooks, thanks so much for coming here and hopping on with me and doing all this stuff. If you want to listen to this, check it out everywhere you listen to your podcasts. We also repost these every time on our YouTube channel. And if you want to catch us live, join the Discord because that's the main place we post if we're going live and all that stuff. So
True.
So yeah, if you want to stay on top of what we're doing, join the Discord. The link will be in the description to Brooks' Discord where you can check that out. And without further ado, Brooks, you got anything to leave them with?
I hope the Elden Ring movie is at the very least okay. Please, dear God.
Please, dear God, if I could ask for one thing. Please, dear God, if I ask for one thing in this world.
Pray to the Golden Order
Yeah.
that this movie will be okay.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
See you, bye.